B&B on the track.
What is going on, Anime Society? It is your boy Hunter back. I know I missed last week and it feels good to be back with all of you guys this week. Along with me, as always, is my best friend and partner in crime, Jonah. Tell him what's up, man.
What's up, y'all?
All right. And it feels good to be back. And last week's video, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But last week's video took off. Jonah did a fantastic job. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that one. He did a great job with it. But we're going to continue on with sort of a little bit of some narrative here, and we're going to do a theory video. This is a theory we have. We might bring more theory videos coming forward. I think it'll be something good, a nice little switch up for the channel, something that we would really like to do instead of some sort of list. So for this week's theory video, go ahead, Jonah, and tell the people what the theory is about.
Yeah, so I kind of hinted this on our Twitter, actually, about how we were going to do another analysis type video like the one I did on One Piece last week. Except this week, like Hunter said, we're going to do a theory. And so we're each going to be pitching our theory on why Emilia should end up evil in some sort of way in ReZero. And what sparked this is with season 2 coming out, me and Hunter, I think you're caught up too, right?
Yes, I'm caught up.
Okay, so we're both caught up, and I texted him one night and I was like, dude, Emilia. No, wait, hold on. I think it was on the Twitter actually. I tweeted out something like, Emilia needs to end up evil because her character is so bland. Like, it's so bland. I don't understand what her role is, besides the fact that, like, she bears a resemblance to Satella, the Witch of Envy, but, like, that's kind of where it starts and ends, you know? So I was like, there needs to be some sort of twist where she ends up being evil, and I don't know how it's going to work. That's what we're going to pitch to you today. We're going to pitch 2 different ideas. And then Hunter agreed with me, and so we were texting one night, going back and forth about how it could possibly happen. Hence the birth of this video.
Yeah, and so before we go into our theories, we're going to just give a little bit of a background on why we think Emilia as a character needs some sort of drastic change. Why something needs to happen to Emilia to actually give her character some sort of worth. Because you look at her character now, and I think the one thing that you could label her as consistently is bland.
Yeah.
It's almost boring. There's almost, you could almost label her as just an important side character. Like she doesn't deserve to be part of maybe the main cast just because she up to this point has shown no importance. The only thing that is interesting about her, I know I told you this off air earlier today, Jonah, the only thing that's interesting is she's a half elf.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. And like literally to this point, even when I go online and I'm looking at, other people's thoughts and opinions on ReZero, the only thing people ever say about Emilia is like she's a good waifu. That's it. And she's not even, and whoever says that is capping, because she is not even close to the best waifu in the series. But like, that's really the only thing people ever discuss about her, and they never actually bring up anything that has to do with her character and why her character is cool or interesting, Zero, one of the things I think it does really well is it does a good job like portraying characters' psychologies and their emotional states. And even like with Emilia, her emotional state almost never changes. She's just like this constant line that's just like boring, and I don't know. She needs something to happen to her in order to give her real relevance in the story and to create something like interesting, about her character as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's something that really needs to happen to Emilia. She definitely needs something to give her character a little... I'm just going to use this word. She needs some life.
Yeah.
Like, she just needs some sort of because even her personality is not that great either.
Right.
And I agree with you 100%. She is not the best waifu in ReZero. If that's not handed out to Rim, I don't know who these people are that are bringing up this stuff. Rim is waifu to a W. Okay,
Bro,
it is definitely not Emilia, but she's very bland, and I think the best thing that could come to her is that she does turn out evil, and I think me and you both agree with that. That's kind of why we decided to do this video. Yeah, sure, she could get maybe some powers and actually be kind of helpful, but I still don't think that would be enough. Whereas if you just turn her evil, I think that would be the best thing to do for her.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even have Emilia's backstory either, you know? So I feel like that her being evil would open up all kinds of cool avenues for her backstory, you know? And that would make her much more appealing to me as a character. So that's kind of like the basis of this video, the reasoning why we think Emilia needs something to change, and her being evil makes the most sense, and it would be the most appealing to me, I guess, to us as viewers. So each of us are going to pitch you our take on the Emilia needs to be evil theory.
And I'll go first with mine. So this is Hunter's theory on why Emilia should be evil. Go ahead, write it down, take notes, ladies and gentlemen, but there are only a few bullet points. It's kind of basic. But Jonah kind of hit it a little bit earlier when he said the only thing we really know about Emilia is they say she holds kind of a similar look to Satella, who is the Witch of Envy. And for those of you that might not be caught up in the second season of ReZero, they introduced Echidna, who is one of the witch sins, and she's dead, so you will be meeting her in spirit form. But she went on to introduce that there were at 1.7 witches, and Satella was one of them. She was the Witch of Envy. They all have some sort of 7 deadly sins affiliation with their name, but Satella was the Witch of Envy. So I took that, and when Echidna tells you that the Witch of Envy, Satella, killed off the rest of the witches, that's how Echidna ended up being dead, I started to piece things together. And this is where the theory started to come into play. So my theory is that Emilia is actually Satella. Like, she's actually the Witch of Envy, but she's lost her memories.
Okay.
Now, I'll go a little bit deeper into this. Obviously, that's just playing off of, they've said that she has a resemblance to her. And there also, what has been told, obviously I did a little bit of deep diving besides what's just been in the anime, is that the Witch Envy Satella was sealed away in a shrine. So she was sealed away, but I'm thinking, what if it was just her spirit? What if it was just Satella's spirit that was sealed away, and her physical form was left behind and then took on the form, or not just the form, but took on the personality of Emilia? And that's why the witches cult is so anxious to try and get their hands on Emilia, because their goal is to return the sealed spirit of Satella that is sealed away in this shrine with her physical body to obviously bring back and reincarnate Satella. So that is my theory on if they want to make Emilia evil, how they should do it. Now, Jonah, here comes yours.
Yeah, just a couple comments on yours, actually, now that, like, when I'm listening to it. I like the theory a lot. I think it's cool, and there's kind of a precedent, you know, like you said, when they met Echidna, she was only existing as a spirit or like a consciousness, right? Even though she had been destroyed by the Witch of Envy. So it's possible, you know, that Satella is existing in her spiritual form and her physical body is still roaming somewhere else. And then it would also make sense because we know Emilia has a connection to the spirits in general. Like the lesser spirits, she has a contract with Puck, who's a greater spirit. So her personality, right, could almost be one of these other spirits that she has a connection with that's inhabiting her body, you know. And then you could go into other avenues, right, and talk about maybe she has like a multiple personality kind of thing going on, you know, which is why she introduced herself as Satella to Subaru the first time she met him, but then once he went back and he called her by that name, she was like appalled, you know.
Right.
But yeah, no, I like that theory. I think honestly, simplicity more times than not leads to a correct answer. My theory is a little bit more complicated, so I think it has a smaller chance of actually being true.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, let's get into it. So,
Go ahead.
Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just saying, go ahead with your theory.
Okay,
I am intrigued because you've told me that this theory is very in-depth, and I want to know how in-depth you went.
Yeah, so I was doing some research and just thinking last night when I was in bed, and so I came up with this. So my theory is that Emilia isn't the Witch of Envy. She isn't Satella. But because she is a half-elf, she is a necessary vessel that is to be used as a sacrifice in order to revive Satella to her full power. And like you said, because Satella is, you know, trapped in this shrine, I think that Emilia being a sacrifice would serve as the key almost to open up the ceiling. That way Satella can be revived to her full strength. And to go into this, in my opinion, when we're talking about the witches in ReZero, Emilia is a witch. I mean, and I base that off of, so far we've heard of or seen two different witches. You know, Satella, the Witch of Envy, and Echidna, the Witch of Greed. And both of them are silver-haired half-elves. To me, that's not a coincidence. You know, I think that if there are only two of them and they both fit that description and Emilia fits that description too, then there's something there. I think that the term witch implies that the person is a magic user, right? And Emilia has her spiritual arts or whatever that she uses. So she fits that criteria as well. And when I'm thinking about what a witch is, I think that there are probably two things that you have to meet, two criteria. You have to be a half-elf, and the other part I think has to do with falling into depravity due to a vice of some sort. And I base this off of, as you guys know, I'm a big philosophy lover. And Aristotle, he has this philosophy about how a virtue lies in between two vices. Like, for example, the virtue of courage is in the middle. You have an excess of courage, which is recklessness, which is a vice. That's a bad thing. Then you have a deficiency of courage, which is cowardice, which is also a bad thing. And so virtues are this fine balance between two vices. And because each of the witches is connected to one of the 7 deadly sins, and each of those sins are a vice, you know, it's an excess of a virtue. Like you take something like, let's say envy. Envy is almost an excess of like admiration for other people or recognizing other people's, you know, values, because ultimately recognizing that consumes you and you become envious. So I think that in order to become a witch, you have to have a half-elf who starts out pursuing a virtue and then ends up either going into the excess side or deficiency side and becomes consumed in that. And then that is what ultimately turns them into a witch. And so for Emilia, she has a lot of big dreams and aspirations, right? She's pursuing an ideal and she wants to do it virtuously. And that's why I think she'll end up evil. She'll end up falling into depravity because she's pursuing this ideal, which will ultimately consume her and turn her into a witch who is only focused on that vice. And then the second half of this has to do with, it's kind of similar to what you said actually about the witches cult. But I want to start out talking about Rosewall, right? Rosewall Mathers is the one who has endorsed Emilia in her quest to become the ruler of Lagunica, right?
Right.
And the Mathers family, we find out in season 2, was very closely related to Echidna, the Witch of Greed, right? And there's even a scene when Subaru is telling Betty in the mansion that they ended up killing Beetlejuice, whatever you, however the heck you say his name.
I know what
Psycho
dude.
Yes. We got a picture. But Betty is like almost like sad and depressed about it, which I thought was really interesting. Like it's odd that she like it almost seemed like she was really close friends with Beetlejuice. And so I think that Roswaal is either the leader of the witches cult or he's a really close associate. And so I think that he's using the witches cult and he's gathering a bunch of people by saying that they're going to, revive Satella. But in reality, his goal is to revive Echidna. So I think like the theory goes kind of like when you have a half-elf that falls into depravity and becomes a witch, that person can be a sacrifice to revive another witch who has disappeared. We know Echidna's spirit still exists, right? Because we saw her meet Subaru. And so I think that Roswaal is using the witches cult as kind of a disguise because he doesn't want Satella to be revived. He wants Echidna to be revived because that's the one that was close with his family in years past. And that's why I think that Roswaal is like never there when something bad is happening. My dude is always MIA. Anytime anything bad is happening to Subaru, Rem, Emilia, whatever. Yeah, so that's that part. And then I think that the reason why Subaru was granted, this is kind of a three-pronged theory, I guess, because this is going on another thing. But the third part is Subaru we know he has return by death, right? And that was given to him by Satella. It's one of Satella's powers. And the reason why I think that he has that is because Satella gave it to him in order to keep Emilia from ever dying, because she knew that Subaru would always go back if something bad happened to Emilia. Because if Satella loses the one person that can be her sacrifice for her revival, her plans are gone. They disappear, right? And if Emilia, on top of that, if Emilia dies, she has that contract thing with Puck where Puck will like destroy the entire world. So the way I see it, Emilia, going forward in the story, she's going to fall into depravity and she's going to become corrupted. That's what's going to make her a witch. So she will be evil for all intents and purposes. And I think that she'll be an antagonist in the story, But I think that things won't go the way Satella or Roswaal want in order to revive these other witches, because Subaru will end up stepping in. Even though Emilia is the antagonist at that point, he'll end up stepping in order to protect her. And then I don't know what's going to happen after that, but somehow Emilia comes back or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. You can take it after that. That's where I left off.
Well, I gotta say, that's a lot to take in compared to mine. I'm looking at, obviously we have the doc pulled up, just looking through some of our bullet points, and I was trying to keep up, and then all of a sudden it took a turn, and we started talking about Subaru, and now I'm like, wow, this is a lot deeper than mine was. I probably should have put a little bit more thought into mine.
Nah, dude. I mean, think about it. Like I said, when something is this complex, it's most likely going to be wrong. It's got too many things going on. But, I don't know. I think it's cool. It's an interesting thought.
I will say this. It is very interesting, and it makes you think really, really hard because there are so many different characters that you've intertwined into this one theory. So it could really, and if anybody out there that's listening to it loved Jonah's theory and they want to twist and turn and maybe take it and run with it a little bit more and maybe get it a little bit more in depth on Roswaal and get a little bit more in depth on Subaru, Jonah just laid down the base form for you. Now you just got to take it and mold it however you want. Mine, on the other hand, is just pretty plain and simple. I just think that Emilia is basically the physical body of Satella's spirit. I mean, mine was just basic. No, dude, but I loved yours, Jonah. But I could mostly because it was so in depth. It really made me sit here and think and try and follow. Have you ever seen that it's almost like a GIF or a meme where the guy has got the pins all over the board with the lines and he looks like he's going crazy trying to figure out where it's going? That was me for a moment. I was just trying to figure out where all the lines were trying to go. And now that I'm kind of starting to get into it, I think that's what I really like about it the most. Is that it was just, there's a complexity to it, and I love complexity because it really sets up for great twists.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if it ends up being somewhat true, then like the payoff will be pretty cool because it's complex, I really liked your theory just because, like I said, I feel like simplicity more times than not is the best route. It's the best option. And I actually think that you could probably go more in depth with yours anyways. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, this is another thing I was thinking about when you were talking. It would make sense that Emilia is the physical body of Satella because, according to what we know in ReZero, there does not exist another physical half-elf, right? She's the only one. And we know that Satella wiped out the other witches, so they no longer have a physical form either. So it really makes you think, like, well, where did Emilia come from then? You know, she had to come from somewhere. So it would make sense that she's the physical body.
Yeah, I think the key point to that too is, like, if you're looking for the clues, it is the fact that she is a silver-haired half-elf. That is just the big exclamation point, the big red alarm that's going off around it, and there's nobody else. Or at least that we've been introduced to. We probably should have said this earlier. Obviously, me and Jonah are not light novel readers, so if somebody knows what happens, they probably will try and get in the chat and do a bunch of spoilers. But
no spoilers.
Let's try and refrain from that. If you do know all of this, these are just theories, obviously, for the anime. But I don't know. That to me, that is just the big red flag. Is that there are no other white-haired half-elves. Or silver-haired half-elves, and then you're introduced to one that happens to be, you know, the spirit of a witch, one of the witch sins. To me, that's not coincidence, and I know you don't think that either.
Right. And either way, whatever ends up happening, I'm sure that to me, there has to be some kind of twist with Emilia. Like, if there isn't a twist, her character is just going to be garbage. And they've tried so hard to make it seem like she's very important, you know? So, like, if they're going to push that narrative, she needs to have something happen where her character becomes more interesting, where she gets some depth, she gets some layers, you know? Because right now, she's pretty much like, what you see is what you get. It's a silver-haired half-elf waifu chick who's really not even a good waifu.
Yeah. And with that, that is going to wrap up today's theory video. If you enjoyed the theory video and you might have a theory of your own, or you can tell us down in the comments which of our theories you agree with below, do not be afraid to get down there and leave your input. We really like looking down there and interacting with you guys in the comments, so don't forget to get there as well. Also, if you enjoyed today's comment, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm not sure if it is, but by the time this video goes up, we were really close. We might even be over 150 subscribers on the YouTube, and we cannot thank you enough. Also, if you don't follow us already, the Anime Society is also on 2 other social media platforms. We have an Instagram and a newly made Twitter. We are maybe, 1 to 2 weeks old on Twitter. We are still infants. So don't be afraid to go over there and follow us and keep up with us as we keep you guys informed going forward.
Make sure that you guys are also sharing the content with your friends. I think that's honestly something that's going to become incredibly important going forward, is making sure that you guys are, you know, acting as the ripples to go into the different social media platforms in order to spread the content. But yeah, thank you guys so much. We did actually break 150 subscribers. I think we're at like 152 as of the last time that I checked.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. Honestly, like, we love you guys and we appreciate the support.
And with that, we are going to get the heck up out of here. We will see you next time, Anime Society.
Peace!
B&B on the track.